Rita Sargsyan is the Ideas Program Director and VC Startups Ambassador at AI LA. She's got one foot in the venture world and the other in overlooked communities. So she's worked across grassroots tech events, deep tech firms, and AI labs. And she's here to talk about what access actually looks like when it's real, not just a fancy PR pitch. Rita, pleasure to have you here, and we'll get right to the question. When I look at your career, I see a lot of diversity in what you've done, right? You've been in rooms where a lot of people are not, busy pitches, healthcare AI labs, grassroots events, community colleges, usually it's one or the other. So, from all those rooms where you've been at, the conversations you've had, what's the moment that made you realize AI can just be built by the usual suspects? Like, what were those early signs that you felt like, I don't feel people are paying attention to this enough? Like, I need to get involved.
Yeah, Juan, well, it's a pleasure being here as well. And as you've mentioned, I've been in many rooms where sometimes I might have been one of the few women in the room representing us, or, definitely hearing some perspectives of, people being shocked that I'm studying or I've studied applied mathematics with that technical background. I do think right now, though, we see this big shift in the space where AI is not only being just overly used as a term, but it's being more publicly available to everyone across the world, which I think definitely brings a big perspective into kind of bridging that gap between common folk and the usage of technology that's so advanced, like artificial intelligence. And I think with this flow of different opportunities coming out and different initiatives being made, we can definitely see that there is more demand in people of different backgrounds to come and bring in their creativity, their perspective into the space. And this can be done through like the current available tools that we see. There's so many of them out there that can easily have you get started with building something from scratch in minutes. You don't even need to have the technical backgrounds anymore to showcase your idea or make it into something more tangible and real. Speaking of websites, speaking of something like an image or basic things like that, to something more complex as well. So I think that um, as I've been going to more events or organizing more events, I've definitely seen that demand from the community to be more open to bringing people from different backgrounds together and kind of hearing everyone's expertise and story and how that all comes into play together.
And how do you get involved in AI specifically in this technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it gets a little over convoluted because everyone uses AI and it's hard to tell. But the way you can get started is obviously, I think exploring is the best way. Starting out, just trying out things. You're hearing some terms, you're hearing some words, but just hearing is not enough. Getting hands dirty, getting started with using tools that are commonly available to everyone would be a good place to start. Another one is obviously exploring events that you can go to and network with people. We, for example, as an organization, ALA organizes over 100 events in a year, and this is open to anyone in this interested with background in AI directly or just looking to get started. Students, professionals, investors, founders, we're open to all sort of backgrounds. So if you're curious to just talk to others and learn how they got into the field, you can get started that way as well. You can also explore certifications, online programs. There's so many opportunities nowadays. But I think the best way is to just start exploring by experimenting yourself. Like start using ChatGPT or start using Cursor AI, build your first website, see what's out there. And then if things don't work, you can always ask more people as you go to different rooms and hear the conversations being shared in that room or hear other professionals share about their experiences.
And for the folks that sort of want to get started, remember we always have the links of all the things we talk about, articles we
Mhm.
mention in the description, so you can get clicking in there in case you want to get started. Now, Rita, I hear you on the, and that's something I actually hear a lot on these episodes, which is the best way to get started is just getting started, familiarizing yourself with the tools, right? But
Hmm.
one of the things that caught my attention on the last episode of the podcast, I was talking to Verena Viva, who basically specializes on coaching women. So, they feel more confident, are more empowered to
Yeah.
get involved in tech, right? And she was talking that one
Hmm.
of the things she noticed was that women are not as likely to use these
Mm.
AI tools, right? Because either it's the ethical concerns or just this thing where, yeah, you're judged harsher. So, they worry about getting in trouble. Now, from your perspective as someone who's actually, like we said, in those rooms, you're involved in there, what's the thing? Did you have to overcome any of those self imposed barriers? And how do you do it? Because you're obviously doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's something I personally experienced myself, being someone who's from a more of a non-traditional background in the tech space, and really feeling like coming from a more of a shy side of things, it was very hard for me to not only get started exploring the space, but also go to rooms where majority of the demographic was definitely not women, being one of the only ones or one of the few ones, and especially being younger. It was very difficult initially to get started. I felt sometimes stagnant when I was in rooms. I just didn't really know what to do. And I had a lot of pressure just being in these rooms physically. But the way I overcame it is kind of I adjusted my mentality with it and mindset, where I was more open-minded about just trying it out, one. And second is kind of reassuring myself of my confidence that I do have this background. I have experience working with different teams, and I definitely bring something to the table. And I think that's one thing that women kind of undersee in themselves. They always put themselves down more than they should. I think we should exude more of our confidence, and that will help us when we go to these rooms that are kind of new to us. And being outside of comfort zone was one of my key goals starting out with this journey. If I wasn't really pushing myself to be in rooms that I never thought I'd be or do things that I initially would have stuttered to do before, I think I would have not ended up where I'm at right now. So my advice would be, first of all, yeah, don't be so harsh on yourself. I think you'll have something to offer. You just need to like reassure yourself of that fact and just walk into rooms and say hi. Just come prepared, maybe like if you have a 60-second pitch, it's always helpful to know how to introduce yourself. That helped me a lot when you're just introducing yourself to someone and you just feel like you have to stop. If you already have something prepared, you can immediately kind of start that conversation and then see what happens. And don't be shy. I think more people would realize how others are interested to talk to you the moment they actually start going to these events and just forgetting about the fact that they're one of the few in the room and just really going out and talking to people. So I know it will feel a little uncomfortable at first. That's how it was for me personally. But because I persisted, because I didn't care about it as much, and I did make mistakes, I didn't really know how to introduce myself at first. It's a learning process for sure. But because of all that, I was able to immediately, um, like as I went more consistently, get this exposure, get this experience, and kind of a better sense of how to present myself as someone in the room. And I was actually noticed more because I was one of the few women in the room. More people wanted to talk to me, which was very interesting observation to make. So yeah, don't be shy. I think it's just a temporary thing. You need to put yourself out there and be consistent with it. And then at some stage, you'll realize how it's not as difficult or as big as you thought it is. It's just another place to be and another place to share and learn from others about their backgrounds and share by yourself.
Thank you for sharing that, and sort of like following up on what you're saying, right? On sharing, on learning, and in a way we're hearing, this self empowerment. you're leading the ideas program, right? And for those of you not familiar, first of all, link in description in case you want to learn more. But this is basically an AI accelerator for community college students. Now, Rita, most people, like when we talk about access to education, first thought is okay, online courses or a YouTube tutorial, right? And rightfully so. It's what we get exposed. It's what gives a lot of folks, including myself, gave access to education and things we couldn't have gotten. Now, one thing that I know is that you state that access it needs to go deeper than those online courses, right? So from your learnings on this program, the ideas program that you're leading, what have you noticed are the things that actually work and what doesn't when actually bringing access to folks that don't have the amount of resources that other people might have, right?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're interested to apply, I want to mention that it's for community college students that are currently based in LA County. And the program focuses on giving all these students not only the course that they'll need in sense of like the technical knowledge they'll need, but it also enables them to be connected with each other, be outside and meet others in the industry and work on a team project that they can highlight later as they're starting out their journey in AI and machine learning. So speaking on to the topic, what I've noticed personally help to make this program a success is kind of um, this goal that all students come together with is where the students we select are all based on their ambition, passion for exploration, something new, and gaining the technical skills. They're very eager to learn and get hands-on right away. So one is definitely that common shared values and passion for being in that place. So one thing I've noticed in our program is the fact that because it's a small cohort, the students really get to bond well with each other. And all of these students come from various backgrounds. They have different stories and different reasons for joining the program, as well as different goals that they want to pursue within AI, ML, or tech space. So our goal with the program is to help each of these students individually to achieve their journey or achieve their goals within their journey. And as part of that, one thing I've seen is because we have the smaller cohort, the students get to actually bond really well with each other. And they realize how important it is to work with peers and kind of push each other to get better at what they're working on. So I agree with you that there's so many online courses right now available, but I think one component that's missing is the human touch and human connection that we all need and crave. And when you're put in this environment that other students you see are like also trying really hard, they're constantly working, they're constantly asking questions, exploring, being curious, that pushes yourself to be one of them, like to be a student like that who's also asking these questions and being putting themselves out there. Another part of this program, why it's a big success, is because we really push hard on networking. We think that networking is key to success, especially in current market and current industry standards and trends that we see. And through our program, all students will have free access to AILA events that we organize throughout the year, as well as ideas related events. And this is just a way for them to get exposure to the industry professionals, to learn what it's like to introduce yourself, to talk to others, but to also break that ice and shyness that we might see in more non-traditional backgrounds of like, underrepresented students or students who are very technical but might not be that well at speaking or kind of explaining themselves. So that articulation way of introducing yourself and showing that you bring a value to the room or to the table is something that we constantly reassure our students in, and another reason why it's a success. So to sum it up, it's not just the course that they're working on, it's not just the machine learning foundations that they're gaining in terms of knowledge that will give them the confidence to tell others that I know what I'm talking about and I have experience in this, but it's also the fact that they're put in this environment where others are supporting them constantly and are always there for them to answer any questions they might have, guide them in their journey, connect them to the right people if they need, which I think is very important, to have the right mentors, to have the right access to industry professionals, and to push them to get out of their comfort zone and just go and be there, just talk to others, and see what happens. I think that's one of the other core components of this program that, in my opinion, from what I've been seeing, is a big success.
It's interesting, right? That what you're it's about artificial intelligence, but basically the mode or the biggest selling point is this community that you're building. And I think one of the things that AI will change through these last few years, we've been a little bit isolated. And I think there's going to be so much information online, so much overwhelm that this in real life communities will be what makes a difference. And in a way, thanks to the work you folks are doing, among many others, we're very spoiled in Los Angeles that we have so many communities where we might agree or disagree on some other topics, and that I think it's excellent because I think at the end of the day it's enriching our views. But the one thing that I see as something that is consistently happening is this generosity and sharing the knowledge. Now, Rita, moving on, are you a LinkedIn user?
Of course. I mean, we're in the space, and I think LinkedIn is like a must-have.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but when you go on LinkedIn, especially if you're looking for conversations about AI, there's a tension, which I think it's a word that AI tools might be using more recently because I've seen the word tension being used a lot like lately on LinkedIn, right? But there's a tension, and I'm really interested on your perspective, right? Because you do get to see, in a way, both sides of the table, right? And it's that a lot of creatives are rightfully concerned or afraid because these AI tools are trained on their work. We might give it the value, some people give it more value, some others not as much, right? But the feeling that you sort of get many times is that there's a tool that it's being built, trained on the work of any of us using the internet, right? Commoditizing it, and in a way, directly competing. Now, we've seen lawsuits from voice actors, musicians, even the New York Times. And I know you're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. And I have an episode with Burke, a copyright lawyer, that you can check up there if you want to learn more about that from an actual lawyer. But Rita, I'm really interested as someone that talks to investors or money people that maybe can be more detached from the artistic side, or the craft. What are the conversations that you're witnessing, and what's the overall sentiment about this tension that creatives might feel about AI tools?
There's definitely a lot of tension right now in the space, and it's natural for us to see this because we see one side where we're having these tools that are supposed to enable us to do more and contribute to our productivity, efficiency, or make other components of our lives easier. But then there's also the other side of the game where people are being slightly afraid or concerned that their roles might be taken over by these tools, which can pretty much do similar tasks, especially the repetitive tasks, in a much shorter time period with less of a cost. And this is something that I feel like we'll be seeing more and more of. This tension will be remaining there in the market, in my opinion, just because we're seeing more and more things coming out every now and then, and it's obvious that the more tools we have available, the more there is that gap between which roles will stay, which roles will go. Yes, there are roles that will be replaced definitely, especially if we talk about like in terms of creative world. There are certain components of creative creators' work that we can expect to be replaced. But it doesn't mean that creators won't be needed still. So I think creators should adapt and kind of explore ways they can learn these tools and leverage it for themselves. Use it kind of like a superpower rather than something that you're afraid of, and that might help you to stand out even more in the market. Um, I think embracing it, I agree that certain components of it, it's difficult, but certain things will help you to not only speed the amount of process you have to go through, like get things done a lot faster, but you'll also be able to put out the content that you really want, focusing more on putting in your personal perspective and creativity into the work you're showcasing by just cutting the amount of time and effort you would have to spend, or even money. Sometimes creators need to spend so much money on editing or, something else. But as roles are being replaced, new roles are always being created constantly. Like, for example, prompt engineering is a role that never really existed. And then with the start of AI, we saw that emerge. There are so many other roles that we see come out from this boom that you can take advantage of. So yeah, I think that just one thing that will help you to stand out is working on knowing what's out there and not being behind in the competition in that sense, like adapting and learning the tools and leveraging for our own advantage. And another thing would be being more of a people person. I think one thing I've heard in general is that yes, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of things available nowadays, but the way you differentiate yourself and you make yourself more competitive is by showing that you have this network of people that AI can't physically really create, because after all, we are humans and we like working with humans. So when you have that personal touch, that reach to humans, I think that will definitely help you stand out as well.
Right. Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, right? Because at the end of the day, we're seeing it play out. From my end, I have witnessed personally the impact AI has had more a bit on the eliminating side that I'm making. Obviously, I've seen also businesses that have scaled in a way, that's the upside.
Mhm.
I can personally attest to that as someone that's leveraged the technology to basically become an agency. But I've seen other people. So I think it's interesting that once again, you're bringing this human factor. And speaking of human factor, one of the things that I know you're involved, it's AI on the lot, right? This convention going on in Culver City, Los Angeles, from May 27 to May 30 in 2025. It's bringing together filmmakers, technologists, AI thought leaders. We love AI thought leaders. My favorite from LinkedIn. Since AI LA is involved, what conversations are you hoping to have there? Or what are the events that you're particularly interested on attending?
Good questions. Yeah, AI on the Lot is going to be one of our biggest events that we organize in a year. Last year, it brought together over 800 industry professionals spanning, the intersection of AI and filmmaking. We had some actors come over, innovators, artists, yeah, execs, startups, developers, just anyone who's interested to explore kind of where that space is heading to next. So if you're interested, definitely check out. We do have quite a few events coming up as part of the conference, and I think it completely depends on what you're looking to gain out of that room. There's going to be such an abundance of people who bring so much to the table, such as like their personal experiences, backgrounds, that you can kind of see if you're looking to connect with someone, if you're looking to get hands-on, we will have like an AI studio boot camp so you can explore that. If you're looking for more like a casual mixer, we will have those types of opportunities too, just to like network and mingle with people. So it's really completely what you are looking to bring. But yeah, if you're really interested and curious about the future, some of the current market leaders in AI and filmmaking and kind of innovation, we will be highlighting a lot of professionals from those backgrounds so you can come and learn something new or bring something with yourself.
Yeah, last year, it was actually one of the things we were talking on the people that attended was that it actually felt like one of the few conventions where it actually made sense to go because everybody was so open to having these conversations and it felt like they actually led somewhere. So at least for me, definitely last year was a super exciting experience, but also allowed me to meet so many people that I wouldn't have met any other way. So I definitely recommend everyone that it's in Los Angeles to attend. We'll have the link in the description. but definitely you don't want to sleep on it if you are interested in AI. So, Rita, we've made it to the end. Where can folks connect with you and learn more about the work you're doing and the Ideas program?
Of course. Well, this was a wonderful conversation. And if you're curious to learn more about Ideas Program, we will have the website below. And then in terms of connecting with myself, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'm constantly on LinkedIn. As we know, it's like an industry standard. So Rita Sargsyan, my first name and last name, very easy to find. I do have messages enabled. So even if we're not directly connected, you can always send me a message and ask any questions about our events for ALA as well as Ideas Program. And or if you're interested to learn more about my background or anything, I'm always open to collaborations and working on new initiatives. So feel free to reach out.
Well, Rita, I appreciate you joining. One of the things I want to do this season is I'm going to bring the people that usually don't get the microphone and speak, and I'm having so many badass conversations, including this one. So I admire that you're getting in the room, and if they weren't opening the door for you, you just knock it down. And for the rest of you, thank you for watching another episode. If you're in YouTube, remember to subscribe, like, leave a comment with your thoughts on this episode or any other topics that you might want to see here on the podcast. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast, leave a comment, rate it. That all goes a long way. So my name is Juan Faisal. This has been Creativity and Robots, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Ciao, ciao.
Amo la creación en mi pantalla, bits y bytes en danza, todo brilla, cada código que escribo canta. Sabor a cumbia.